One thing that I've never been accused of is being someone that's precise and efficient. In a weird way, I take great pride in not having those qualities because I truly do believe that things like flow state and automatized routine is actually a weakness. That being said, though, some people have complimented things like my work ethic or my energy or my discipline, even my gas tank, right? The one compliment that I actually take pride on, if I ever get it, is when someone calls me someone that's creative. That is something that I definitely aspire for. But what I think people mean by a precise and efficient person is someone that's able to think and be a good strategizer. And I don't think I ever have had the chance to express those qualities as much because maybe my resilience or my energy kind of makes up for those deficiencies, perhaps. Basically, I'm stupid, but I have a lot of energy, I guess. A big oaf, I guess. But that being said, the people that I really admire and look up to in some ways have those qualities of strategy and adaptability for sure, to the highest level even. My resilience, my gas tank or whatever, I guess makes up for that. And maybe I will never get to learn that quality if I keep relying on that brute forceness, right? In some manner, I think every quality exists in everything. There is a strategy to being bold without being super risky, without losing everything. There's a strategy to having creative problem solving skills while also having resilience. Because the truth is, optimizing and adapting can't really seem to happen at the same time, at least in the conventional sense, right? If you try to develop a quality, then you definitely sacrifice something else, always. You gotta purposely push that quality, which means you can't really express it in an optimal way either because you're testing it constantly. For example, if you're trying to practice focus and concentration, you have to constantly find constraints that let you tune out distractions, which means that you get really good at focusing without other things in your vicinity, without any other signal or noise. But unfortunately, because you're working on the quality of focus, it means you're not really adapting to what distractions mean, right? As in your quality of focus, your ability to do it while other distractions are available diminishes. And so you are not adapted to distractions. So I think the pursuit of optimizing and being efficient when done in this manner is actually just harmful for all of us. I think in each quality that we try to develop, we must see the sacrifice that it comes with, diminishes some other skill that we have. If I'm improving my ability of being a good friend, then I'm certainly sacrificing the ability for me to be alone sometimes. If I'm developing the ability to read, then maybe I am sacrificing my ability to listen sometimes because I'm working on those qualities and focusing on those things and letting go of certain things. Right? And I think there's a great beauty to seeing that. It's definitely never actually one or the other, but I do think it's beauty in seeing what's being lost because we can't have it all the time. But the funny thing about that is that when we're aware of this principle, there's something that's gained. There's a sense of presence that when I'm working on something with intentionality, the opposite trait is also somehow being expressed or remembered. Even when I'm trying to optimize a skill, there is a seed of adaptation still possible on the side if we pay attention. Intentionality and awareness, as I've always said, is the forefront of seeing this. And I think the biggest driver of our optimization culture is because of our fear of making mistakes. But yet, this fear absolutely holds us back always. In fact, the whole idea of mistake is the antithesis of understanding. The only way I could confirm my skill and my ability is by testing it endlessly, which by definition means you're looking for signals that indicate failure. And we might call these mistakes, yet these are nothing but just signals to our head. So instead, just like a test, just like a play, we must keep pressure testing our ability to do anything in any circumstances, giving up on certain habits, letting go of certain things, adding certain things, and seeing what remains, and continuously observing its effects. That's the only thing we could really do. In that framework, there is really no mistakes. Once again, it's just everything just serves to amplify self-understanding. And something that's even more interesting to me is that as I've tried this process, I have figured out in some ways that everything I've ever needed to learn has already been present with me in some manner. A lot of the lessons are just me re-remembering the things that I've already learned. And that is an interesting feeling. The beautiful thing about this is that it gives us permission to trust ourselves in some manner, right? Like half the lessons is just continuously re-applied. Every person, every seeming obstacle, every night of missed sleep, every procrastinated assignment is the same lesson learned 20-fold. And we don't need to necessarily be hard on ourselves for making that mistake. We just relax into it, melt into the action, while seeing it for what it is, the same lesson that's being applied over and over and over and over again. The feeling of being you, the feeling that's ever changing, construct that's ever changing, just relax into it. If I am distracted, then at least be there for it. Remember what it is that you just watched. What took up your time? It's fine. It's chill. It doesn't really make a difference ultimately anyway. I promise I will relate the video back to precision and efficiency and strategy eventually. But my main point is that the lighter that I become, the less the contraction in my head controls me. And the easier my smile comes out when I'm doing hard things. My eyes naturally twinkle a little bit more when it happens. My body prays more easily. And somehow it becomes easier to ask the right questions that are important to me that day. It becomes easier to sit still. It becomes easier to do what I know I want to do, even when I don't want to do it. It becomes easier to become compassionate because it is just a naturally flowing feeling. And I think this is truly what we mean by presence. This type of feeling uncovers reality as it really is without trying to achieve anything. And when I do have it, as I've had multiple times throughout my life, and as I've forgotten many times in my life as well, I try to practice certain things. I ask myself, what is it that I thought about when I first woke up in the morning? And there are times when I wasn't aware at that specific time, yet somehow I'm able to recall it now. Similarly, I could do the same thing with the last 1 hour. What is it that I was thinking 20 minutes ago? Even if I was distracted and lost in thought, a part of me took that in. That's the beauty of having a relaxed state of mind. And it's not just limited to thought. The same visions, the same feelings, the same undertones can be replayed even when you forgot it was happening to your head. And that's a skill that I've consciously seen develop in this past year. The ability to recall that I was awake in those moments, I had just forgotten it. Which means I could go back to that place anytime that I'm learning something that's really difficult or frustrating, any quality that I'm trying to develop, any time that I just realized I spent 3 hours scrolling. No matter what routine or model that we follow, without this place to go back into, to see things as it really is, this sense of presence, this collection of all already acquired wisdom that we all have, I think, the experience does not feel fruitful without remembering this. So these days, whenever I feel like I've wasted a certain amount of time, I just try to recall what it is that the experience that I had, that moment of doing that thing was. And you'll be surprised at how much actually comes back to you if you give it an earnest effort to look into it, even if it's been hours and hours since your moment of distraction. Now I'm going to go back to the topic of precision and efficiency. The one thing I've definitely realized is that the idea of the flow state that we use so much in our culture is a trap and a definite mistake. Because the truth is, everything is light and easy, especially when we accept the pain and pleasure as part of the experience of living. The beauty of accepting this is that I don't have to worry about any of it. So there isn't a battle to begin with. I just have to play. One thing that I love about life is that every opportunity is a moment of practicing this exact same insight. And I mean every single one. For example, I'm glad I am without a job, even though it was involuntarily. And I'm glad I had this pressure that's seemingly building up. I'm glad I had the opportunity to learn, to clean stuff, the random chances to help others, the random tests of my boundaries, the random conflicts I have with others. And with this type of awareness, this really deep sense of gratitude for everything just starts to flow. If we keep letting go and being, this feeling of being backed into a corner, being stuck in an endless rat race, being behind all the time, we start to realize that it's designed like that on purpose, whether intentionally by evolution or because of the way that our society is modeled. All I know is that it's not something that I want to be moved by. I think the truly good thinkers in our society are also not moved by these things because they're aware of it. I think the true masters of our time are absolutely relaxed and at ease, even in moments of being tested. The most efficient people are low-key kind of silent. Similarly, the truly strong are really kind, and constraints are certainly important and pressure can build that. However, we must see that it's a tool that's used to develop us, not the other way around. When I say things like this, the concept of flow starts to come into vision again. A lot of you probably crave this sense of feeling because it is so addicting. I've experienced it myself. Yeah, the thing is, when I investigate this feeling even more, it's another way of escaping the puzzles and tests of time, the struggles that life offers us, right? We cannot hack ourselves into understanding and stability that we're talking about. We cannot hack ourselves into genius. The flow state that we talk about, by definition, has always felt so fragile to me, that it needs perfect conditions, that it needs perfect things, and could be so easily deterred. It gives this illusion of freedom almost through real immersion, to forgetting what we're doing almost. But what that also means is that I'm not aware, I'm not there for it, and I'm not seeing the picture as it actually is. And I do think that you could absolutely go into flow state and practice unhelpful and useless habits. I think that's what we do most of the time. For example, I have felt this while running before. Long distance running has this quality of feeling really immersive when you eventually get used to it, right? And I know that one time I might have overtrained and taken multiple reps that were really improper form for the distance that I'm trying to run. Yet I was so immersed in the experience, the endorphin release or whatever it is, the narrowing of my vision as I'm going to the field, all of it, right? I was so immersed in that feeling, raptured by it that I didn't actually see everything that was happening. My vision was narrow. It wasn't seeing the whole picture, and that is by design. I remember this exact same feeling of fragility I felt when I had a flow state in this 4-hour exam that I was taking. A very important exam that I thought at that time. I was locked in for 3 hours. I had practiced this exam like hundreds of times across my life, emulating the perfect test conditions and locking in and just doing the exact thing that I was asked for, right? Hoping that I would be the best that day that I took the exam. Yet I remember on the 3rd hour, someone in the room vomited. All of a sudden, the smell and the visual of that vomit completely overwhelmed my senses. Then the spiraling feeling of losing time and losing focus, that experience of doing that, experience of having that completely derailed the last hour of my test and it ruined it for me. And that is the danger of flow state, because it's automatic and it's not designed to be adaptable. It's designed for optimization of these tasks that we deem as being automatically important. It's a sign of laziness and not a sign of true intentionality. One moment could just simply ruin it for you, seemingly. That's not how fragile our conscious experience is. I do not want an optimized and efficient flow state ever like that again. I do not want to live my life in an automatized way in that manner either. So really, when we say we're looking for precision and efficient person, we are looking for someone that's a good thinker, a good strategist, a good adapter, a good problem solver. And I think it's much better to aim for that. But the only way to be those things is to truly learn to see everything as it is, rather than trying to always make things better in this moment. That means having the experience of immersions at time, yeah, but yet keeping a watchful eye that experience doesn't understand what it's bathing in because it's completely immersed. Yes, it is true that the entirety of a tornado is what my conscious experience is. But do I really know how wide I am? It is true that the conscious experience is basically more like an ocean than a boat riding in the ocean. However, the problem is that it's impossible to know just how wide the ocean is when you're completely immersed in it. We must see the boat rider and the ocean as it is, the tornado and the eye of the storm. All of it can be seen. And that's not a skill that requires a massive amount of effort. It's a skill that requires us to understand what we want. It is a skill, however, that needs to be relaxed into in some manner. And it is completely different from flow state or needing the perfect scenario. I know I was significantly more efficient doing those tasks when I repeated it endlessly over and over and over again. I knew I was a better basketball player and a shooter when I did hundreds of threes every single day. I remember feeling immersed in that experience of practicing those drills. Yet when it came to the real game, I never really did well. I knew I was more productive when I disciplined myself into making videos and writing and reading every single day. It would never translated to the type of life that I want to live. The results was just not speaking for itself necessarily. So efficiency really is deceiving in the sense that it could be achieved easily by just narrowing the task. And I don't think it's a virtue like we think it is. And that's mainly because it's for the sake of immersion, it's actually ignoring the value of feedback and change that's constantly happening as we're living life. Instead, I think it's so much more valuable to focus on testing ourselves and playing and breaking our beliefs and seeing what remains. Putting ourselves in scenarios where things like frustration and confusion and sense of being lost, sense of explosive impulsivity may arise, but relaxing into it and learning from it. This type of intentionality and observation actually completely removes us from the possibility of us fooling ourselves by our own delusions that are driven by our want to be efficient, to be optimized for everything. Our poop will always smell no matter how much perfume we put on it. And that's what locking in is really like. It's putting perfume on a shitty situation. But if we stop focusing on that and focus on seeing things as it really is happening right now, the good, the bad, whatever it might be, we might actually figure out a way to think well. And that is actually what we are looking for when we say we want a precise and efficient life. So stop locking in.